All right. Welcome to the fourth episode of Job Searching Sucks. I am your host, Scott Engler, author of The Job Interview. That's INNERVIEW. And I also do transitional career coaching. It's 80-20 transitional career coaching. And if you are interested, I'll get a little bit more into that at the end of the show. But let's get to it. So today's episode is about the dreaded online job applications and personality assessments that seem to be ever so present in the corporate job search, right? So most positions, whether it be, a larger franchise, I don't know how many of you have had this experience, but I know I certainly have, and even recently, where when you go in or you call up or inquire about a position, it's almost like an automatic response that they're like, well, we're not going to talk to you anymore unless you fill out an online job application. So just to share really quickly, I don't know how many of you have experienced this, but I had the awesome opportunity to fill out 2 different applications and online applications and questionnaires. It took me well over 5 hours to do both of them just because I had to customize my resume and fill out timed personality assessments. Now, I filled out these applications only to find out afterward that the positions that were open online that I applied for weren't actually open, and they just, for lack of a better word, effed up and hadn't taken the job off the website yet, which I'm sure you could imagine the frustration at hearing that, not once but twice in a row. So I made a decision that I was going to do anything and everything to creatively not do that and find out, A, if the job is actually available, and B, if it's going to be a good fit for me and them, right? Because it's not just all about them, which seems to be the case. I'm guessing most of my audience will be people looking for jobs, so we could probably agree that things have changed significantly and that employers tend to maybe not be as understanding or flexible in their approach to meet you halfway when you're trying to look for a job, which unfortunately I believe really turns away and turns off a lot of qualified candidates. So anyway, the topic today is how to get the interview without having to fill out this online application. So I'm going to go over a few reasons why it's really important to try to do that's going to be tough is, first of all, there's about 1% computer system that is basically funneling through all these applications and filtering out the ones that don't meet specific requirements of the job description. Now, the trouble with that is that the average job seeker probably doesn't know what an applicant tracking system is. I know I sure did not know what that was until I was, really more involved with speaking with recruiters and people in HR. So they're looking for specific words, and the computer doesn't say like, oh, it's close enough, right? When they're looking at it, it just is trained to filter out things. So you could have the relevant experience and still get your resume filtered out because you're not using the wording exactly the way that is going into this applicant tracking system. So that sucks, right? So that's one major reason why I feel it's very important to be able to get in touch with someone and get an interview before filling out this online application. So if you do go in, if you understand this, and perhaps you are having a good relationship with the recruiter or the hiring manager, you could kind of ask more clearly as far as the application, like, what specific requirements and how would you want it to be worded, so I'm able to kind of get past this applicant tracking system. So that's the first reason why it's really important. The second reason why it's really important is because even if you're having a human being reading it, recruiters, they're doing maybe a 30-second scan tops when they're looking at resumes. I mean, they really don't care. They want to get the position filled as quickly as possible, and so due to the volume of resumes, they're really spending, sorry, I think it got cut off for a second, that's why I stopped. They're really spending very limited time scanning over your resume. So even if it is a human, they're still looking for those keywords. Now, so those are the two reasons why it is of monumental importance to try to understand that and be able to get some type of interview without first filling out this application. So the first one I would say is networking. Now, networking could look like a lot of ways. It could be social media networking. It could be, your LinkedIn profile. It could be Facebook. It could be your friends, your relatives, right? What about networking events, right? Volunteering within something that you want to do, right? Like maybe a company that you want to work for is having some volunteer events, or they're sponsoring something, right? And that way you could meet these people face to face and get an informal interview down the road, right? If you develop a relationship with someone and you know that they're in a hiring position for a company you want to work for, you're already getting that rapport with them, right? And there's no reason why they can't do an informal interview with you without having you fill out the online application first. It's complete BS, and I've had this verified with people in HR, that a company, unless there's extenuating circumstances, they could give you an interview without making you fill that application first. Mainly the reason that they just tell you that right away is because they don't want to deal with you, really. They're just kind of brushing you aside. In their mind, they got other better things to do, and they feel that this applicant tracking system or their corporate recruiter or person in HR is doing a fine enough job, so they're not really willing to give you the time to at least speak it over with you. But if you're able to develop a relationship with them and you're meeting them, I'm sure you would find the situation to be much, much different. So that is number one. So finding out ways to network and be able to come into contact with these people, even on LinkedIn, right? I got an interview because I contacted the owner of a company that I wanted to work for, and so we really had a very informal interview back and forth on the phone and email before I came in for a more formal interview. And then would be the time, right? Like, Scott, okay, now you could go fill out this online application, but at least I know I'm getting somewhere, right? I've already met with the employer, so I'm really, using my time more efficiently, rather than what's recently happened to me is spending 5 hours for 2 different jobs that weren't even that amazing of opportunities, and only to find out the jobs weren't even available because they hadn't taken them off. So this is kind of a way that you could preemptively get around this. So the second one is contacting the recruiter directly. Now, I spoke with a friend of mine recently. She got a job in nursing, and she told me that, what she was having a tough time, and she got a job in nursing even back when there was less people going for the nursing field and more of a need. And she said she was having a really tough time just, trying to send in applications and not hearing back. So what she had done was she just started contacting the recruiter. Now, how do you find out who the recruiter is? Well, there's a few ways. You could, you could go on the company website and look at who is in HR or who the recruiter is. You could also do a search on LinkedIn as far as, like, let's say I was applying to LinkedIn. So I'd be like, LinkedIn recruiter. And so, a bunch of names would show up, and it might tell me the area, maybe Los Angeles, where they do the recruiting at, right? Because some people work in different locations and try to recruit for jobs in certain areas. But it's a good start, right? You could, learn along the way just to try to contact these people. And of course, you want to use proper discernment and have good manners, or else you're not going to hear back, right? As far as when you're initially contacting them and explaining the reason why and asking about openings. And I always feel and find that just giving them a personal bio is a lot more effective, because it really, they don't have to read as much usually if it's just like a paragraph or two. And it's a lot more interesting if you're looking at 100 to 500 to 1,000 resumes a week. It could get really tiring. So if you have something a little different, if you could kind of learn how to differentiate yourself and speak at what they're needing, and maybe just giving a few examples of relevant experience, I think it'll go a long way. And so yeah, that's really, the second one, is just trying to contact whoever's in the hiring position first and get some type of question and answering done with them, or learning more about the position, and feel free to just kind of explore that with the person. But at least you're getting to a place where you're getting somewhere, right? Rather than just submitting this online application to, in the air and getting it viewed by robots. You're actually talking to a person, and therefore separating yourself from a lot of people that aren't doing that. So that's number 2. Number 3 is informal interviews. And what do I mean by informal interviews? I mean, I'll give you an example. I recently wrote an article on a interview I had, an informal one, when I walked into a establishment, and as I was filling out the application, I was just speaking with the hiring party and kind of going over what their needs were and expressing how I felt that I could contribute to those needs and why I felt it would be a good fit. And it went really well. It went really, really well. And sometimes, I found that it could be hit or miss. Some people might be willing to spend 5 to 10 minutes to talk to you. Other people, might not be so willing to do so. But I personally believe that it's worth the risk, right? So if you're looking for a job, let's say you are looking for a job in the service industry at a restaurant, going in during the slow hours, right, when you're not coming in on a Friday night at 6 p.m., right, because that's not going to be the best thing for you, making that a good impression if you're trying to talk to them when they're super busy. Go in when they're going to obviously be slower, shows that you're courteous and respect their time. And just saying, hey, look, I'm really interested in this position. I saw something online, or you guys might be hiring. I was just wondering if I could talk to you for 5 to 10 minutes just to understand the position better. Because truthfully, it really is effective, because not only then do you already make an impression and meet them, but I've also found that a lot of companies aren't doing the best job of describing what jobs are opening, if it's part-time, full-time, temporary. There's a lot of stipulations I've found in positions that they kind of euphemistically describe the job online, and then when you get into the interview, you're like, oh wow, this is nothing like I expected. So I find that the 5 to 10 minute informal interview is great, because not only do you get to meet someone in person, you get to find out if the job is actually open, right? And they're not just posting online and forgot to take it off. But you also can maybe just ask a few introductory questions about the job, and learn kind of more specific details. As a part-time, as a full-time, when are you needing someone by? These are all very important things, right? Do you need someone in 6 months? Are you going to need someone in a week? And then you can kind of get a feel of where they're at, right? And be able to effectively manage your time better. So what happened for me was, not only did I get to talk to her, I ended up talking to her for about 20 minutes. And just by simply saying, hey, do you mind if I just kind of wanted to learn a little bit more about the position and, what your plans were when you needed someone by. So yeah, just kind of taking that risk. Like I said, someone might be really busy and they might just say, hey, go fill out an online application. And, if that's the case, you could do what you got to do. But I'm just sharing my experience of what I've been able to do to kind of get around that. Now, of course, I think I mentioned earlier, you will, in most cases, have to fill out an online application, especially if they're going to be hiring you, because it's, the company needs you to be in the database. And so even if they offered you the job right there, they would still need you to actually go ahead and put in the online application. But I don't know about you, but I would feel a hell of a lot better filling out that 2-hour online application when I already know I got the job, right? So that's my whole point, is finding ways to get around doing the, hours of online applications first, only to never hear back, right? So there's ways that we could kind of maneuver that to not only effectively use your time, but probably effectively get hired better, right? If most of the things I'm sharing are being able to contact the people directly that you would be interviewing with anyway, rather than just submitting this online application to a company website. And that covers it pretty much. That is the 3 ways that I've found effectively and simply could help you in your job search, make things frustrating, right, and a little more effective. So that is what I have learned and shared with others, and now I'm sharing with you listeners this evening or this afternoon or this morning, wherever you're listening from. So unfortunately today we're not at the point where we're able to take online callers. I would like to get that started in the near future. Please feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. My name is Scott Engler. Last name is Engler. You could visit my website, www.thejobinterview, that's INNERVIEW.com. My book is The Job Inner-View, so that's INNER-VIEW. And you could actually, if you're interested in learning more ways to effectively job search and network, and even if maybe you're having trouble with, what do I do on LinkedIn? How do I, what's this whole personal branding and personal bios? What are these things? I'm very well aware that the methods of job search strategies have changed even more significantly in the last 2 years, right? They keep changing from traditional job search approaches. So if you are interested in talking more, I do offer, it's 80/20 transitional career coaching and personal branding. And if you go on the website, on www.thejobinterview.com, you will see a link that says that 80/20 transitional career coaching and personal branding. You can click on that. It has a nice description of what entails my services. Or you could just feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, or my email address is located on my website, but I'll leave it here as well. It's The Job Interview, S is in Sam, E is in Edward, @gmail.com. And you can contact me that way as well. Well, anyway, I appreciate everybody that took the time to listen, and I hope that something shared today is encouraging and helpful to you, and will kind of give you that extra motivation to keep on keeping on, right? All right, well, thank you again for listening. My name is Scott Engler, author of The Job Interview, signing out.